Brock Banner with the St. Louis Blues podcast with a good friend, Jeremy, from the SLY Fox Sports podcast. Jeremy, what's up?
Not much. Love talking hockey.
Talking hockey. We do a lot of work for the St. Louis Fan Report.com. We encourage you folks to check out some of our work and some of the other work that we do for the site. But boy, Jeremy, what a year it's been. I mean, there have been so many overtime games and teams coming from behind. What gives? Is this odd? Is this odd to you?
It's been a trend actually from what I've seen for the past couple of years. Now that they've got this 3-on-3, you notice like in the third period, teams are playing like, especially if they have a big lead, they'll just sit back and try and play penalty kill the entire time, and that's when they get burned. But then, like if it's a close game, they're pushing for that overtime. Not only are they trying to get that point, but they want to prove that they're the better 3-on-3 team.
Sure. But I mean, just you look at some of these games and like these teams are coming back from 4 and 5 goals. And, we even seen here in St. Louis, they had a 3-0 lead. We end up losing the game 4-3, so I could say that, and even just judging by the Twitter, there's a lot of gnashing of teeth out there from fans.
Yeah, for sure. There is a lot of, and as much as people complain about extra time, overtime's the best thing right now, especially now that it's 3-on-3, because it just proves speed is a key factor in this sport and shot power. I've seen guys rip it from the point and bury it in an overtime, and just they had no reason to take that shot except for to just get it at the net and it would go in.
Sure. I mean, again, we talk about hockey being a crazy game, a lot of crazy bounces, but just seeing these teams with these comebacks and these furious comebacks, and really these games have been epic. They've been really epic games if you win. If you lose, they're really ball busters, man. They really knock your teeth out.
Yeah. My Penguins have been a couple of those. Let's see. We didn't go to overtime against the Flyers, but the first game we scored 71 seconds, 3 goals in 71 seconds, and we lost to the Flyers 4-3. They put their foot on the gas in the first period and then just went the rest of the freaking game.
Yeah, we've seen that here where our Blues have jumped out to a 1-0 lead in the first minute, and then they've held it to the third period, and it kind of disappears. We end up losing.
Right.
And so again, it's nice to know that we're not the only city suffering. That cities across the nation are suffering. But I also get your take too. Had a lot of milestones going on here in the NHL. We've had some coaches, and certainly Patrick Kane, with his 1,000th game, probably didn't end up the way he wanted to. But boy, talk about Patrick Kane though.
Yeah. I've said this on the Fan Report. I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. I think Patrick Kane, by far, maybe not all time, but in this generation, is the best United States-born hockey player. He has done things that nobody expected him to do. These 400 goals again. Scored his 400th goal against Detroit in late February. He's got 1,000 games now, and I expect him to play a hell of a lot more. And this Chicago team, who everybody thought was going to be, thought it was going to be a bust. No Seabrook because of injury, no Taves because of injury. Nobody expected Chicago to be where they are, and right now they're hanging on to that playoff spot. And it's because of Patrick Kane and a couple other people that we'll be talking about later.
Sure. And, we talk about the playoff spots. I mean, just, checking the standings, there's some razor thin leads out there, and it's really nobody's safe. And I think it's exciting for the sport. But again, in a sport where everybody's used to making the playoffs every year, there's going to be some people pretty disappointed this year.
Absolutely. Like, for example, I'm a Penguins fan, like I've said before, and we're barely hanging on to the 4th spot in the East. But the West is just like, you could cut it through a night. One game and you're out of the playoffs, or one game and you're in the playoffs. or you got a better spot in the playoffs. It's nuts. The top four in the Central are like that. The only one that I can see that isn't really a race, but it kind of is the North, because you kind of know who's going to be in the North.
But how's it going to tier out, and how's it going to shake out?
Yeah, how's it going to tier out is what's going to be interesting, especially with Toronto, being on their hot streak right now.
Sure. We talk about milestones. Rod Brindamore, he's a name that a lot of us here in St. Louis know. He played for the Blues, real gritty player, coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. They got a great team over there, and man, he just got his 100th win, or I'm sorry, not just 100th win. That's a guy I think is going to be coaching in this league for a long time.
Absolutely. Rod Brindamore has broken many of Penguins fans' hearts when he was playing for Philly, but as a coach, he gets it. He does. He gets what it means because he's an old player. I love it when these old players become coaches because they know what they expect. And, look at guys like, David Quinn in New York, and you look at Barry Trotz in New York, in the Islanders, a bunch of old players taking over the reins, and soon the newer generation are going to start taking over the reins. Like Brindamore is a newer generation coach.
Sure.
And for him to get his 100th win, that's awesome.
Well, the reason I bring that up, and you mentioned Barry Trotz, because he also is celebrating a milestone. I think it was his 1500th game. And, to me, Barry Trotz is just kind of a retread coach. He's going to show up here. He's going to show up here. He's going to show up like Ken Hitchcock. He's got these guys who just pop up and show up. Now, again, Brian Sutter showed up in Calgary, and he's making some changes there. But, look at like Rod Brindamore, this new kind of coach, Craig Berube, Rick Tocchet, these ex-players. And then I look at the Barry Trotz. Again, nothing to take away from Barry Trotz. He's a great coach in the head. But, again, he's going to just retread somewhere else sometime. But,
right.
I just think it's a real difference in how coaching has evolved.
Yeah, for sure. Tocchet in Phoenix, Arizona, whatever you want to call him anymore. He's doing great things, and Brendamore's doing amazing things in Carolina. And now you're just looking at some of these newer guys that are coming in. Like you look at Ralph Kruger in Buffalo. They pushed for him to be the coach there, and it's not working. They need to get somebody else in there. I'm a proponent of, I like Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh, but I don't think he's going to be there much longer. He plays the same style for every game, and he doesn't want to change up the lineups or anything like that. He's like stuck in his ways, and you can't be like that in the NHL.
And this year he doesn't have Zdeno. They're missing quite a bit, and they're really hurting. Pittsburgh has really had a rough season so far this year. So you're right.
Yes.
All it takes is one or two bad seasons, and then you're out. There's no coming back. So
look at Danny Bilesma.
Yeah. We also want to talk a little bit about the Calder race. And again,
yes.
A lot of folks are looking at, who's or some of the rookies coming in. And, you have your top five. I have basically one and then four other people. So let's kind of kick it around. Like, what are you kind of thinking on the Calder? Like, who are you liking?
All right. Well, my top five for the Calder, I've got Ilya Sorokin at 5 for the Islanders. He is the future of the Islanders goaltending position. He's a big part of them being in the top of the East, along with Semyon Varlamov. He's got a save percentage of .911 and a goal against average of 2.14. Yes, he's only played 7 games, but if you've watched any of the games that he's played, he's got Dominik Hasek-esque moves. Like, he'll make a unbelievable save look like it's, cakewalk. Fourth, I've got Kevin Lankinen from the Chicago Blackhawks. In Chicago, they thought it was going to be, an absolute bust season. No Jonathan Toews. No Brent Seabrook. Corey Crawford went off and went to New Jersey because they weren't going to retain him. So who was going to be the number one? Malcolm Subban came through and he was possibly going to be the number one. But Lakeinen has stepped up and decided that with him and a couple other of the new freshmen Hawks, that they were going to take this team and put them under their wing. He's got a shutout, a goals against average of 2.76, and a save percentage of 9.19 in 17 games. So Lakeinen has become the number one guy, and he is one of the reasons that they are in that playoff spot. Third and second, I have a pair of Senators. Josh Norris, third. He's been really good in 15 games. He's tied for points in Ottawa, in 28 games. I'm sorry. He has 15 points, 5 goals, and 10 assists. Where the second person I have for the Calder was the third overall pick in last year's draft, and that's Tim Stützle. He's got 6 goals, 9 assists. Norris and Stützle play on the same line. So those two on the line, along with, I think, Brady Tkachuk, that entire line is just disgusting. And then my number one is Kirill Kaprizov from Minnesota. He has been the absolute beacon of hope for a hockey town like Minnesota. He leads all rookies with 19 points, 6 goals, 13 assists. And if you get to watch the guy play, not only does he just wow you with some of these passes and some of these goals that he's making, but he is crazy fast. Like, I would love to see him and Connor McDavid in a 40 race and see who would win, because those two are just speedy as hell.
Sure. And I got to just tell you, like, for me, it was Kirill Kasparov and nobody else. I mean, I ended up ranking him, but I was like, man, this guy's really. And when I look at these awards, I look at who's making an impact on the team and how good are the teams.
Right.
Like, guys could be great. And again, I guess a lot of people debate about that, but for me, it's like, how are you contributing to the overall success of the team? And
right.
You look at Minnesota, and I don't want to say they're a surprise team, but boy, they are a tough team to play. They just took the Golden Knights. They just took them down a few nights ago. They're right there in the mix with the Blues and with the Colorado Blues and the Golden Knights. I mean, they're very tight, and I think a lot of that is because they have that scoring punch. They have that speedster. They have that guy that can get on those breakouts. So that's why I like Kirill Kasparov. I thought, when I was looking through all the names and was kind of trying to think, I was like, wow, this guy was just clearly a head and shoulders above everybody else. Now, I also took some time with the Senators twins. I had Tim Stützle as number 2, basically based on the fact that he was a high draft pick and felt like he was going to, really develop into something. I put Niels Hoglander from the Canucks, kind of a tough guy, a little, kind of adds a component to the Canucks game. But again, the Canucks are terrible. They're not doing that well this year. So
right.
It's hard for me to really give them, say he's been adding to the success of the team when they're not doing very well. And then the goalie for the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin.
Oh yeah, Shesterkin.
Shesterkin, he's been having a great season. They need a good goalie, but again, I don't see him winning it this year. I really think it's Kirill.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kaprizov's going to win this, unless he absolutely goes off the rails or gets injured. I'm thinking Kaprizov's got this, and if Kaprizov doesn't win it, I think Stützle gets it. Even though Ottawa's one of the worst teams in the NHL, yeah. Stützle and Norris are just they're just perfect with each other.
You have to start thinking what's in the future. I mean, what's that going to be like? They're really, and if the Senators, if they can ever get it together, they're really going to be a tough team to deal with down the road. But, you look at the entire league, and even teams that are in the bottom, Anaheim's, I mean, those are tough games. They're not giving games away,
Buffalo. I mean, they're the worst team in the NHL right now, and they gave the Flyers a run for their money. They took them to a shootout. And the Flyers are one of the top, they're right now in a race between Pittsburgh and them for the 4th spot. And, Philadelphia, they were down 4-2 at the second period. So again, what you were talking about, coming back from that 2, 3, 4 goal deficits, and winning it in the shootout or overtime. But I mean, Buffalo's got some good players.
Yeah.
Dylan Cousins. I mean, he's a good young center that will do whatever it takes to get the team riled up and get the team in a positive mood.
But I think you even mentioned it. They have Jeff Skinner, healthy scratch. Like, when you do stuff
right.
like that, it's like Jeff Skinner. I mean, that guy he's a great player. Anyway, it's just a head scratcher, real head scratcher.
It is. It really is. And I'm going to touch more on that. I've got to do an article on the Buffalo Sabres because it boggles my mind. They've got so much talent on that team, especially getting Taylor Hall from Arizona and a couple other pieces, Eric Stahl, and yet they're dead last in the NHL. Not even just the East; they're in the dead last in the NHL, and it just boggles my mind. So yeah, I got to touch more on that later. But
let's let you know, I'm working on a couple pieces. I have a piece on Jay Boomeister. Boomeister is coming out on Friday. I'm excited about that.
That's awesome.
I'm just finishing up a little bit on Torrey Krug and just kind of taking a look at his play here in St. Louis. Again, me being a local sort of blogger. What kind of things are you working on?
I'm working on the Buffalo Sabres piece. I'm thinking about doing some more. Like, I like to cover the East Division, so probably cover the games. Maybe not tonight, but tomorrow night is when I think the East is going to be the bigger shine. So cover the games, preview, review, all that. I'm a big fan of Kaprizov. I might do a piece on Kaprizov just so people, because they see who or how he is on the ice, but they don't know who he is.
Who he is, exactly.
Right. And I'd like to delve in more to find out, because I'll be honest, I like the Minnesota Wild. I've never heard of this kid.
Mm-hmm.
So when he came out and did the things he's doing, I'm like, okay, this guy's pretty good. Where the hell did he come from? I don't remember him in Iowa or anything like that.
Yeah. Hey, real quick before we kind of wind up here and close it down, we're up at the halfway point of the season. What are the surprises? What are things that have surprised you so far?
I think one of the biggest surprises is that Buffalo isn't higher in the East. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. The East Division is a very powerhouse division. You've got Pittsburgh, you got Philly, you got Boston, you've got the Rangers, you got the Islanders, and then you got Buffalo and the Devils, which, I thought Buffalo would be up there more, but being one of the worst teams in the NHL, that with all that power, that's the thing that kind of boggles my mind. The Ducks, even though they're not very good, they're young, and they've got some veterans, obviously, with Getzlaf and Ryan Miller and John Gibson, but the young core of the Ducks are just flying right now. And that's just proving that come the future, the Ducks will be a powerhouse in the West, as long as they can keep a lot of those pieces.
For me, biggest surprise for me, to be honest with you, I think it's a realignment, because I think a lot of fans are getting tired of playing the same teams. I think one thing that I liked about hockey was seeing the East and seeing the Canadian teams and seeing those guys. I mean, I don't want to see, the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, I think the variety was something that was really nice. I get it. It's a pandemic. They're trying to make it work, whatever they can do. But, I do think that they need to really rethink this model, because I think, what's going on in the North is there's a great hockey going on up in the North Division. Nobody else knows about it. Nobody else knows what's going on. Nobody else knows that the Maple Leafs and and to me, I think that could be maybe one of the biggest surprises. I thought maybe people would be a little bit more tuned in the league, and it's all about your own division, and nobody even really cares about the rest of the league. To me, a little disappointing.
Yeah, but from what I've heard, the NHL higher ups, they like this realignment, and especially when Seattle comes in, they're thinking about just throwing Seattle in the West and just keeping it the way it is. Now, my thing with the realignment is the playoffs. That's when it's going to get interesting because you'll have, the top 4 teams in each division facing each other, and then you'll have the champion from the one division. Like, there's 4 divisions. How are you going to do the Stanley Cup Finals? What, are you going to have the winner or the North and the West face each other, and the East and the Central face each other, and then the winner of that one goes for the Cup? Or, see, that's where I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do with the playoffs. That's where I'm interested with it. But the realignment itself, there's a lot of tweaks that I would have made. Like the North altogether, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But like you look at teams that are in the Central and the East and the West, I mean, yes, Minnesota should be in the West. Yes, St. Louis should be in the West. But for the Central, they've got Dallas, they've got Nashville, they've got Chicago. A couple of those guys should have been in the West. And then a couple of the East teams should be in the Central, like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. So then we could see Pittsburgh versus Detroit, Pittsburgh versus Columbus, some of those other rivalry games, rather than just seeing Pittsburgh, Washington, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then insert name here. Yep. Like, they took away some of the good rivalries that we get, like with Chicago. Chicago and St. Louis is always a good one. Chicago and Minnesota is always a good one. Chicago and Detroit. Well, we still got that one, but, they're taking away St. Louis. You're taking away Minnesota. I don't know.
But, I worry about how marketable some of these big name stars are in some of these markets. If they're only playing within these regions, they're not being marketed across the United States, And
right.
Obviously we do NBC, we do broadcast, but does the casual fan know who Kirill Kasparov is? I mean, do they know, who's starting for the Canadians? Like, I just don't know that a lot of the fans are really paying attention outside of their own division, and I'm not sure the long-term effect what that's going to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, but ESPN signed a media rights deal. So that's going to help a big chunk because, ESPN, they get anything over. Like, honest to God, they could get, I think, what was it? A couple of nights ago, I watched Cornhole on ESPN, and it was a big thing. Like, really? Yeah. Isn't this a game you play in your backyard? And they got a national championship for Cornhole. I'm like, okay. So them coming back to ESPN, or the NHL coming back to ESPN, that's going to be a big boost for ESPN because they'll be able to show, or for the NHL and ESPN, for the NHL, they'll be able to show more than just what what NBC does, like a 1, 2, 3 games a week kind of thing. Sure. ESPN, they'll show a game every night. So then you'll get some of these out-of-market teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs and, say, the Winnipeg Jets going at each other to a team or to a guy in the East who, oh, well, none of my teams are playing, but I want to watch hockey. Oh, well, the Leafs are playing. I'll turn them on. They used to play in the East. Kind of something like that. Sure. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. It is.
Well, a lot to talk about. And, again, big games this weekend. We're going to, kick off a full slate of games this weekend. So we'll be catching up with you next time, and we'll catch up with you on the pregame show. Jeremy, have a great day, man.
You too, man. Catch you later.